I recently heard a lecture on pastoral care and counseling where they talked about listening well. Listening is something that we're not very good at. It's something that we struggle with. Now, you might think that listening is not that hard. Listening is just opening your ears and hearing what someone says. But did you ever think about how you listen and what's going through your mind as you listen? So often we listen with the intent of figuring out how we will respond. We're not necessarily listening for the purpose of understanding. We're listening so that we can participate in dialogue. Now, dialogue's not a bad thing. Talking back and forth and having a conversation is not a bad thing. But when we forget that we're supposed to listen to what the other person is saying, understand it, not always agree with it, but understand it, something happens. We find ourselves more in tune with what the other person is feeling. We become more aware of what we are feeling and how we are responding and acting. All this reminds me of what we find in the early parts of the book of Exodus. Let's take a look at what we find in Exodus chapter 3. Then the Lord said, I've clearly seen my people oppressed in Egypt. I've heard their cry of injustice because of their slave masters. I know about their pain. God took the time to listen. Now you might be thinking, of course God took the time to listen. It's God. God listens to us. And you are absolutely 100% correct. God does listen to us. God listened to the cries of God's people in their time of slavery, and from there led them out of slavery into a more fulfilling and prosperous future. God listens to you, just as God listens to me. But do we listen? Not just to God, but to others. Do we listen to others when they talk to us? Do we seek to understand them? Or do we find ourselves just getting ready for our next talking point? What if we listened for the sole purpose of hearing someone else? What they're feeling, what they're facing, their joys, their sorrows, their celebrations, their grievances? Perhaps we'd start to understand them more. Perhaps we'd start to get a perspective that they have that's different than ours. Maybe we'd find ourselves fighting less. Maybe we'd find the aisles over which we shout becoming a little more narrow and our shouting a little quieter. Maybe we'd find that we have space to love one another more, and that we are not maybe as different as we think ourselves to be. Let us listen to one another. Listen not to respond, but to understand. Listen for the purpose of caring. Listen for the purpose of getting to know. And when we do that, someone will listen to us too. Amen.